The empire Kody Brown, once built with pride, is now nothing but rubble. Audiences nationwide were left reeling after word surfaced that Sister Wives patriarch Kody Brown suffered a devastating legal setback. For years, Kody boasted about his grand houses, his multiple wives, and the massive empire he said he was establishing. But now the foundation of that empire lies in ruins. Court papers uncovered that among the Brown family's most coveted items, a grand mansion with close ties to Kody and Robyn was taken. Fans who have been watching the Browns for more than a decade could hardly believe what they were seeing. How was it that the man who proudly spoke about dictating his family's fate lost it all to the court? The empire Kody Brown, once built with pride, is now nothing but rubble. When word got out initially, people couldn't believe what they were seeing. Social media erupted like a wildfire. Did you hear about Kody Brown? Is this true? Did the court really take the mansion? These weren't just rumors. These were shouts of shock ringing out over the Sister Wives community. For more than a decade, Kody Brown paraded before the cameras, projecting himself as the man with the plan, the leader of a huge polygamous family, the visionary who said he was forging a new life. To the outside world, he was contentious. Yes, but undoubtedly successful. He had the big houses, the TV stardom, and most crucially, control. Kody loved that image. The man who always had everything under control. But the reality was a ticking time bomb. Behind the publicity-grabbing smiles and melodramatic moments, the cracks in Kody's so-called empire were widening. The family battles weren't for theatrics. They were real. The money woes weren't gossip. They were crippling. And the mansion that Kody and Robyn held onto as validation of their success was constructed on shaky foundations, literally and figuratively. Then it all came crashing down. Picture this, a peaceful Flagstaff morning in Arizona. Neighbors with cups of coffee, children off to school, birds singing in the crisp desert air. And then, out of nowhere, official cars arrive. Handfuls of papers, authority in their gaze. The mansion that was a beacon of Kody's ego was going to be taken away from his clutches. The judge had given the verdict. The house belonged to someone else now. For viewers who had seen Kody bully, fight, and brag year after year, it was almost unbelievable. How was the man who insisted on loyalty from his wives, obedience from his kids, and respect from viewers to lose it all in such embarrassment? And yet there it was. In black and white, the kingdom he boasted about was no longer his. It was taken, reclaimed, vanished. What made this fall so unexpected wasn't merely the legal blow, it was the symbolism. This wasn't merely about bricks, walls, and a roof. This was about everything that Kody represented. The mansion had not simply been a home. It had been his throne, his safe haven, his evidence to the world that in spite of the divorces, the drama, and the betrayals, he was still winning. And now, with one swing of the court's gavel, that illusion was destroyed. Robyn, his favorite wife, had always stood up for Kody, even when it meant losing friendships with Christine, Janelle, and Meri. She believed him. She believed the mansion, and now she was sitting there, powerless to prevent it all from being taken away from her. Viewers were not able to avert their eyes. Social media was abuzz with responses. People sympathized. No one should lose their home like that. People gloated. About time. Karma finally got him. Regardless of whether they were for him or against him, everyone concurred on one point. This was the most astounding collapse in Sister Wives history. For Kody, the humiliation was unbearable. Here was a man who once said, "I'm building something great for my family." But what was left? The family fractured. The wives gone, the kids distant, and now, even the house was taken away. The empire wasn't just collapsing, it had already collapsed. And yet, what was worse still was how public. Losing a home in seclusion is sad enough. Losing it on the reality TV stage, that's heartbreaking. People who had previously admired the Browns for their resilience, now watched with open eyes as their tale became a cautionary one. The rumors increased in volume. Was Kody irresponsible with finances? Did he disregard warning signs? Did his control issues get the better of him and blind him to the real world? All the theories made the rounds. Every follower had an opinion. But one reality stood tall. The empire collapsed. The minute the documents were served, something was lost forever in the history of Kody Brown. No longer could he conceal himself behind the photoshopped goodness of the television show. No longer could he stand tall as the unassailable head honcho. Now he was merely another man who lost everything. His family, his dignity, and now his palace. And if you listen very carefully, you can hear the irony reverberating through the desert air. Kody always dreamed of being the king of his world. He desired power, loyalty, and dominance. But kings don't lose their castles. And Kody Brown just lost his. The shock wasn't about what it was. It was about what it indicated. This wasn't a chapter in his life. This was the start of the end of the story we all believed we were familiar with. Because when the court took that mansion, it wasn't taking possession. It was taking away the final element of Kody's carefully crafted persona. And when the word got out, one question was seared into the minds of all fans everywhere. If Kody's empire has fallen this far, how much lower can he go? The focal point of Kody and Robyn's existence was their gigantic house in Flagstaff, Arizona. To everyone else, it was a castle, tall ceilings, expansive rooms, and a way of life well out of reach for most households. But beneath the sparkling veneer, money woes had been building for decades. Rumors whispered of overdue loans, defaulting payments, and conflicts over land ownership. By the time the court intervened, it wasn't merely a professional blow, it was a public shaming. The neighbors stood in shock as authorities circled the property. For Robyn, who had always held on so tightly to being Kody's favorite wife, this was her nightmare come true. The vision of Robyn sobbing uncontrollably as she understands their dream home is lost will forever be etched in the minds of fans of the show. The Flagstaff Brown family mansion was more than a home. It was a declaration. When Kody and Robyn first moved in, they wanted the world to see it as the crown jewel of their empire. With its grand entrance, towering ceilings, and sprawling layout, it was designed to scream success. Cameras rolled, fans gawked, and Kody grinned with pride. This, he seemed to say, is proof that I've made it. But behind those lavish walls was a storm waiting to break. For years, rumors of financial woes surrounded the Browns. Inconsistencies were noted by fans. How was Kody able to maintain this mansion on his income while dealing with multiple families, failed enterprises, and perpetual drama? Christine had walked away. Janelle was finished. Meri had quit. And yet Kody and Robyn were hanging on to this monstrosity of a house like it was their very last lifeline. And then, one day, the balloon burst. Court representatives came to the mansion, documents in tow. This was not reality TV drama. It was real. The house belonged to them no more. It had been taken away. The reasons were harsh and unforgiving. Delinquent loans, contention over ownership, bad management of finances. Whatever the precise cause, the consequence was shattering. The mansion that was once theirs was taken away. Neighbors peeked out from their windows, shocked by the scene. The mansion, always filled with lights and activity, now seemed unsettlingly quiet. Officials marched with precision, their presence spelling it out clearly. This was no longer the Browns' domain. For Robyn, it hurt right away. She had fought so hard to maintain the life she created with Kody. She had defended every decision, every contentious choice. And now, in one harsh instant, the home she believed was forever was taken away. Witnesses said she was crying hysterically, her voice cracking as she implored Kody to make this right. But there was nothing to make right. The court's ruling was final. Viewers of Sister Wives couldn't help but make comparisons. Christine had walked away and been happy. Janelle had opted for independence. Meri had finally escaped, and all of them had lived through years of emotional wars with Kody. Now, as they watched Robyn lose it all, viewers felt a sense of justice, like the universe was finally getting its revenge. But below the symbolism, the takeover of the mansion revealed something more fundamental. Kody's empire was always constructed on unstable foundations. He had invested everything in image, big houses, high-end lifestyles, and a perpetual desire to demonstrate that he was in charge. But as he spent his time flaunting, the money cracks widened and deepened. The mansion turned into an ultimate metaphor. On the surface, it appeared to be perfect. In reality, it was tensioned, teary, and frightening with the impending doom. While the officials did their job, Kody attempted to remain dignified. But for a man who had spent decades bragging about his leadership, this was too much to bear. This wasn't a loss of money. This was the ultimate public defeat. His neighbors witnessed it. His children witnessed it. The whole world witnessed it. And what hurt most was how preventable it all could have been. Fans theorized if Kody had listened to Christine when she pleaded for solidity, would things have been different? If he hadn't invested so much energy in favoritism towards Robyn, would his family and finances still be intact? If he hadn't pursued the illusion of power, would he still possess actual power? But regrets don't overturn court orders. By the end of the day, the mansion that had once been the symbol of Kody and Robyn's triumph was the ultimate symbol of their destruction. The lights were off. The laughter ceased. The grand house stood vacant, devoid of the pride it once had. For Robyn, it wasn't just losing a home, it was losing her security. She had always thought that Kody would protect her, that she was special, that she was off limits like the other wives. But now, in the wake of a foreclosed mansion, she saw that she was no different. The hurt, the heartache. It had caught up with her too. Fans responded in real time online. Memes overflowed on social media, with jokes such as Kody's castle turned to sand, and Robyn finally gets what the other wives got. Some cheered, some felt bad for him, but nobody tuned away. Because this wasn't about a home. This was about the collapse of a man who believed he could outwit everything: love, loyalty, and even truth. The taking of the mansion was a watershed moment in the sister wives' drama. It wasn't merely the loss of a house, it was the loss of authority, the loss of pride, and the loss of the very status Kody worked so diligently to preserve. And as the dust settled over that erstwhile grand mansion, one question hung in the air: if this was the start of the Browns' downfall, what calamitous blow lay next? Robyn has been repeatedly portrayed as the emotional center of Kody's other marriage. Christine, Janelle, and Meri fled the chaos. But Robyn remained by his side, grasping to preserve what was left of their family. But even she couldn't conceal her desperation. Witnesses said she wept uncontrollably, pleading with Kody to fix this as the reality descended upon her. For years, Robyn had been accused of being the favorite wife, the one who was given the mansion, and the others ended up with less. But in that moment, favoritism didn't count. All she had struggled to hold on to was slipping away, and no amount of tears would ever be able to halt it. The proud matriarch of her part of the Brown clan was left with only fear, confusion, and regret. Tweets exploded on social media, some sympathetic, some calling out the bitter irony. Robyn finally gets a taste of the kind of heartbreak the other wives had experienced. Tears. That's all anyone could ever see when Robyn Brown learned the truth. The mansion, the crown jewel of her time with Kody, was lost. Robyn had been the subject of controversy for years. She was to some fans the faithful, tearful wife who stood by Kody when the rest of the world abandoned him. She was to others the favorite, the special one who got that extra something, while Christine, Janelle, and Meri were left to scrap over crumbs of his attention. But wherever you landed, one thing was certain: Robyn always thought she was secure. And then, the court decision brought all that illusion crashing down. Witnesses called the moment indelible. As officials completed the documents to take away the mansion, Robyn became undone in ways fans had never witnessed. She grabbed at her face, sobbing uncontrollably, her voice shattering as she implored Kody to make this stop. Her sobs rang out through the house, the same halls that had once laughed and dreamed. It wasn't crying, it was devastation. It was the cry of a woman who'd come to understand her world was falling apart around her. Robyn had stood up for Kody for years, even when it came at the cost of being ostracized by the other wives. Christine broke up with him, Robyn remained loyal to Kody. Janelle departed, Robyn remained loyal to Kody. Meri was finally able to escape, Robyn remained, reassuring herself that loyalty would protect her. But loyalty doesn't pay bills. Loyalty doesn't halt courts. Loyalty doesn't erase financial ruin. And in that moment, Robyn's loyalty became heartbreak. Picture it. Robyn on the floor of her one-time grand living room, surrounded by boxes and memories. She clutched a family photo, her tears smudging the frame. To her, the mansion was more than a house. It was confirmation she'd won Kody's heart, that she was the surviving wife. Losing it was more than losing walls and ceilings. It was more than losing her identity. Fans who had long been critical of her were split. Some sympathized, explaining that no woman should have to endure such embarrassment. Others were less than compassionate, proclaiming it karma for having gone years with favoritism perceived. Social media exploded with responses. Now Robyn knows how Christine felt when she was snubbed. Robyn thought she was special. Welcome to the real world. I pity her, but this is the mattress she made. The argument went on, but there was one thing certain: Robyn's meltdown was authentic. It was not staged. It was not for television. This was the stark, raw reality of a woman seeing her dream disintegrate. And Kody, his response made things worse. Rather than consoles Robyn, he became defensive, angry, almost icy. He yelled about discrimination, about how the system was stacked against him, about how people didn't realize the sacrifices he made. But none of that kept Robyn from crying. For once, Kody's bluster didn't matter. His business was destroyed, and he couldn't keep the one person who had risked everything to remain with him safe. In Robyn's mind, the collapse wasn't merely losing a home. It was betrayal. She had trusted Kody. She had trusted that, unlike Christine, unlike Janelle, unlike Meri, she would be guarded, that she would never have to endure the same hurt. But as she cried on the chilly floor, she saw the truth. Kody had failed her too. The irony was not lost on viewers. Christine had cried in her car once, shattered by years of abandonment. Janelle had wept in tears of anger at money woes. Meri had quietly wept as her marriage disintegrated. And throughout it all, Robyn had been living in the mansion, invincible it seemed. But now, the wheel had turned full circle. The weeping was now Robyn's turn, and the mansion, the very symbol of her status, was taken away. Her meltdown was the picture of Kody's empire coming down around her. Cameras may not have documented every second, but the news ran quickly. Robyn, who was once the cocky wife in the large house, was now the poster child for heartbreak. At that moment, she wasn't the favorite wife. She wasn't the winner woman. She was simply another wife who gave everything and received nothing. The symbolism was too strong to be disregarded. The mansion had symbolized Kody's pride, but also symbolized Robyn's conviction for what their future would hold. Losing it left her with neither security nor hope. Her tears were not just about the now. They were about all the promises that had been shattered along the way. Certain fans questioned whether this would be the moment she would finally hit her breaking point. Would Robyn finally leave, as the others had? Would she have the courage to stand on her own 2 feet? Or would she keep holding on to Kody, even as the world around them fell apart? The responses weren't explicit, but one thing was certain: Robyn's emotional breakdown spoke more than words ever could. It illustrated the human price of Kody's decisions, the cost of pursuing power and pride at the expense of love and stability. Her crying, her begging, her heartbreak, it was not about a house. It was about a broken family, a dream that had become a nightmare, and a woman who had come to understand that no matter how hard she tried, she could not outrun the tempest that Kody had unleashed. And while the fans relived the moment in their heads, there was one eerie thought left behind. Robyn had finally experienced the hurt the other wives bore for years. The empire fell, the mansion was lost, and the tears were all that remained. Kody always craved control. He needed to be the leader, the breadwinner, the man who stood taller than the rest of them. But in pursuing that goal, he wore himself too thin. The divorces, the suits, the perpetual family drama, it all caught up with him. His personal relationships crumbled, his public image imploded, and his financial security vanished. One day, Kody had been bragging about building houses on Coyote Pass, a huge tract of land intended to represent his family's destiny. Today, that vision is nothing more than soil and shattered promises. The mansion being taken away was not merely about losing a house. It was the final testament to Kody's demise. His so-called empire wasn't constructed on love and harmony. It was constructed on ego and control. And ultimately it couldn't bear the pressure of its own fissures. Kody Brown once had aspirations to be remembered as the man who redefined family. He desired to be the courageous patriarch, the head of a contemporary polygamous dynasty, the man who had everything: wives, kids, money, and respect. For decades, he made the world believe his dream was succeeding. But today, that dream is in shambles. The Flagstaff mansion seizure wasn't merely an economic catastrophe. It was the last fissure in a foundation that had been weakening over years. To see how low Kody has sunk, you must travel back to the very start, when he assured his wives that love, unity, and collective sacrifice would build something extraordinary. In those early days of Sister Wives, it almost felt plausible. There were 4 wives, dozens of children, and the illusion of a community that, battered and bruised as it was, somehow still held together. Kody grinned for the cameras, proudly displaying his unique family. He referred to himself as a man with a plan, someone planning for the future. And the wives, even when exasperated, stood with him. But behind the scenes, the seeds of destruction were already being sown. Kody's control issues, his narcissism about being the focus, and his favoritism towards Robyn gradually dismantled the glue that kept his family united. First to break was Christine. Her devastation over years of abandonment prompted her to leave, opting for peace and self-reliance, rather than Kody's broken promises. Janelle was next, fed up with being belittled and financially taken care of. Meri, having hung on for years to a fractured marriage, eventually left as well. And with every leave, Kody's kingdom weakened. What seemed like a grand kingdom of wives and children one day was nothing but a broken home. The episodes of the show shifted from family meals and bonding to fights, tears, and admitting betrayal. Viewers no longer viewed Kody as a leader, but began to view him for what he really was: a man grasping for control as it slipped away from his grasp. Then the monetary cracks. Coyote Pass, the property Kody boasted he was constructing his family's future on, remains vacant. He spoke of dream homes, a shared dream, a location where his family would live in accord. But those dreams turned to ash. No building, no development, only weeds sprouting where dreams should have taken root. And now, with the mansion taken, the facade of riches and success is lost. Kody, the proud man who once stood before cameras, finds himself scrambling. His wives have left him. His children are estranged. His economic security is in tatters. His image, once a lightning rod for controversy, but strong, is now used as a punchline. Fans mock him on social media, labeling him a failed king, a man whose kingdom was smoke and mirrors. What makes the breakdown so heartbreaking is that Kody will not acknowledge his part in it. Rather than taking responsibility, he attacks. He blames Christine for walking away. He blames Janelle for disobeying his rules. He blames Meri for being aloof. He even blames the system, the money, and circumstances, but never himself. And still, anybody who is watching can tell the truth. This failure wasn't due to bad luck. It wasn't due to unjust systems. It was due to pride, ego, and years of poor choices. Kody desired power over love. He desired dominion over togetherness. He desired to be king, but he treated his wives as subjects rather than as partners. And now, the crown that once sat upon his head is nothing but ash. The seizure of the mansion was the ultimate embarrassment. It represented all that he had lost. Not wealth alone, but power, respect, and stability. That house was once the evidence that Kody was winning. Now its absence is evidence that he's lost. Even Robyn, the single wife who remained, is breaking apart in front of him. Her emotional meltdown revealed to the world what Kody could no longer conceal. His empire isn't merely flailing, it's gone. Fans have made the tale a cautionary story. They opine, this is what happens when you construct on ego rather than love. They liken Kody's journey to a house of cards crumbling under its own instability. And they're not wrong, because ultimately Kody Brown's empire wasn't an empire at all. It was a well-crafted illusion, supported by television cameras, tenuous relationships, and financial gambits he couldn't afford. Now, nothing but ruins are left behind. Kody Pass's dream is over. The family solidarity is over. The house is over. And most excruciatingly of all, The women and children's respect for him that once trusted him is over. Kody might continue to be on television, venting, pleading his case, attempting to stage himself as the victim. But to viewers, the reality is apparent: the empire has imploded, and nothing he speaks can restore it. And when the dust settles, there remains one chilling question: when a man loses his wives, his children, his riches, and his pride, what is left? For Kody Brown, the solution might be the toughest truth of all: nothing. As Robyn cries and Kody frantically searches for answers, viewers can't help but wonder, what's next? Will this be the death knell that expels Robyn from the family? Or will she remain by Kody's side, even as the walls come tumbling down? For Janelle, Christine, and Meri, the verdict of the court must taste like poetic justice. They simply walked away from the mess, discovered new strength, and left Kody to deal with the repercussions of his decisions. For Robyn, though, this is merely the start of a nightmare she never imagined she would have to endure. The Browns had once embodied an alternative vision of faith, family, and fortitude. Today, their tale looks more like a morality tale of greed, deception, and collapse. Kody Brown's empire has imploded. The mansion is reduced to ashes. Robyn is shattered, and viewers everywhere can't help but wonder, was this the demise of sister wives or merely the prelude to an even darker episode? The chimney is out, but the questions are just getting started. Kody Brown's empire has imploded. The mansion is destroyed. The wives are destroyed. The money is destroyed. And now, everyone is looking at the one remaining person standing next to him: Robyn. What happens next for the Browns could be the most unpredictable episode yet. For Christine, the future is bright. She got out years ago, opting for happiness and autonomy over Kody's domination. Now today, she's laughing, living on her own terms, and fanatics cheer her on, as testament to freedom from Kody equaling freedom to live. Janelle, as well, is rebuilding, staying centered on her kids, her business, and her freedom. Meri, once emotionally imprisoned in a failed marriage, has at last escaped. To these women, the demise of Kody's empire isn't tragedy, it's vindication. They endured years of neglect, favoritism, and disappointment. Now they get to sit back and watch from afar as the empire collapses around them. But for Robyn, it's much more complicated. She remained, she gave up. She protected Kody even when it meant losing relationships with the other wives. She felt she was creating a life that lasted forever, a life that would make her stand out. But now, she's discovering that loyalty does not always equal security. Her tears spoke for themselves. She is afraid, she is shattered, and she is starting to wonder if sticking with Kody was worth it. Everyone is wondering, will Robyn finally leave, or is she too entrenched in the implosion to quit now? Robyn has insisted that family is everything to her, but whose family does she have now? Christine, Janelle, and Meri are all gone. Sisterhood is destroyed. The kids are split. And Kody, the man she gave up so much for, can't shield her from the embarrassment of losing their mansion. This puts Robyn in a dilemma. If she exits, she can begin again, just as the others have. But exiting also means acknowledging that all of the things she sacrificed, her friendships, herself, her sacrifices, were for nothing. If she stays, she gets to stay with Kody, but at the expense of being in the remains of a dream that is no longer. In the meantime, Kody himself is living a more brutal reality than ever. He's no longer the assertive patriarch of the television show. He's a man exposed, humiliated, and stripped of the very persona he spent decades cultivating. Without the mansion, without the wives, without the financial security, who is Kody Brown? A husband to one, a father to many, or simply a man whose pride deafened him until it was too late? Fans are divided. Some believe Kody will attempt to rebuild, to hold on to Robyn, and navigate another means of positioning himself as the leader he once spoke of being. Others believe this is the end, that Kody is done, that the empire he boasted of is in ashes and regret. And then there is the impending question of the show itself. Sister Wives has been living on drama for years, but now with Kody's empire crumbling, what is left to tell? Will there be cameras following the wives who have gained their freedom? Will they be covering Robyn's breakdown and how she is trying to determine whether to stay or leave? Or will this mark the start of a completely new turn? One where wives live without Kody, and he becomes a relic of the very show he used to control. Social media is abuzz with guesswork. Hashtags trend weekly. Hash Team Christine. Hash Justice for Janelle. Hash Free Meri. Hash Robyn steers. Viewers argue back and forth. Robyn should leave. She can do better. No, she'll never go. She made her choices. Kody will attempt to spin this, but the empire is over. The drama has grown larger than reality TV. It's a cultural moment now, a teaching moment about pride, control, and the perils of constructing something on weak ground. Kody had hoped to be known as a visionary. Instead, he's becoming a warning. So what's next? Perhaps Robyn finds the strength to leave, at last realizing the agony the other wives had to endure. Perhaps Kody, deprived of his authority, will have no choice but to face the reality that his kingdom was never about family. It was about domination. Or perhaps, in the most unexpected turn of events of all, Robyn remains. Kody holds on to what little he can, and the two of them exist together in the ashes of what might have been, deluding themselves that it's still a kingdom. One thing is for sure, the downfall of the Brown dynasty isn't the closing of a book, it's the opening of a new one. And no matter if the new chapter is redemption, rebirth, or utter ruin, viewers will be tuned in every step. Because in Sister Wives' world, the book is never actually closed. There's always a new twist, a new heartache, a new secret lurking just over the horizon. And while Kody and Robyn stand in the shadow of their lost estate, the world waits anxiously with one scorching question: what happens next for the Browns?